Hi, Özgun. How are you?
Hi, David. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Doing good, doing well. Still having another little snowstorm here in Montreal.
Oh,
Spring is at our doorstep, but it's still a few weeks away.
mm-hmm.
um,
And we have the rain back in Belgium,
there you go.
and because of the time difference, I think it's the morning over there, right?
Here it is. It's 11:30.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's 5:30 over here, so it's end of my work day for my day job.
I see. Of
Now
course,
starts my side side job time. Yeah,
of course, of course. Özgun, I see now I didn't pronounce it the right way. I'm sorry. It's I need to think about it. But I know that you have a message to share, and
yeah,
I believe actually I'd want you to just share it right now. It should be the first thing that we share during
yeah.
this episode. Are you ready to share this message, and then I'll
Yes.
introduce you?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the space to do this first. It's very important to me indeed. Um, Probably you know already, and maybe some of our listeners also know that on the 6th of February, so around like 10 days ago or so, there has been a devastating earthquake in Turkey, actually in Turkish borders, but affecting heavily Syria as well.
Hmm.
And more than 20 million people are affected. It's like more than, I think now, unfortunately the count, they count the dead people,
Hmm.
it's above 40,000 only in Turkey.
Oh no.
So many people lost their homes, and so many people are wounded. There's still a little bit of like miracles here and there.
Of
People
course.
can
Hmm.
come out of
The
under the
rubble.
rubbles,
Hmm.
yeah, alive. I heard some
Wow.
cases
After
yesterday.
all these days. Wow.
After all these days, after more than 250 hours. But yeah, like many lives are ruined. And then I am Turkish originally, and culturally, we have a more collectivistic society, let's put it
Hmm.
that way.
Hmm.
So we are all going through a collective trauma.
Of course.
So it has been a difficult 2 weeks for me and many other people. And the message here that I want to give is that because so many lives are ruined, it's almost impossible to build the whole thing up on our own. I mean, we can't leave these people to their own devices. So the message is, if you have the capacity, please donate some even small amounts of money to disaster relief organizations that you trust, who can
Hmm.
spend it for the benefit of these people over there. Yeah, if I need to give a recommendation, I can do that.
Please do.
But there's an organization called Ahbab. Maybe I can spell it for you. It's
Please. Yeah.
H AHBAP
Hmm.
.org. So you won't see an English language website there, but there will be one
Okay.
button that's called disaster donation. So
Hmm.
that's the one. That's like a grassroots organization. It's really doing a lot for these people
I
over
see it
there.
here. What I'll do, because we're live, I'll create a banner. Uh, donate.
So you found the website.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
for rebuilding uh, and it's not only rebuilding. This is well, and
It's
for yeah, and
yeah,
for
the
and
search and
and
rescue is still
humanitarian.
continuing. But yeah, there's less and less chance now. And 10 provinces are just flat right now.
Ay, ay, ay.
It's really a terrible, terrible thing.
Okay, just give me a second. I forgot something. I want to do it like this. There we go. So I leave this here as long as I can. Eventually, I'll put also your links. But I think it is an important message. This is very current. This is very recent.
Yeah,
The trauma. You are in Belgium.
yeah,
You have told me off the record that your family, at least from what you said, was okay, which is a good
yeah,
thing. But
yeah,
for
yeah,
many
yeah,
families, it isn't okay.
yeah.
So,
Unfortunately, so
that's this why you had told about the opportunity to
yeah.
give this message, and this is why I thought it was important too.
Thank you, thank you.
Um, so now after this moment, and you know asking people who are watching to follow the link here if they can, and donate. And for people listening, again, it's ahbap.org, and there is a donate button right there in the middle. You won't miss it if you can. uh, People, families, children are in great need over there. So
Yeah,
now, we just talked about trauma, gigantic proportions of trauma. But originally, when we talked about having this conversation, it's not too far departed, although the nature and the scale has nothing to do with it. But the idea of the conversation today was to talk about your experience and what you've learned these last few years about burnout.
yeah.
And we'll do that. I'll introduce you to everyone,
Mhm.
and we'll do that. I think I won't do the usual beginning of the interview. I think the interview started with your message, which I think is
Mhm.
important, and now I'll just present you, and we'll go from there if it's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
So today I am welcoming here on Papa PhD Özgün Ünver. Özgun is a certified life, stress, and burnout coach working with academics around well being, mindset, and burnout prevention and recovery. She has a PhD in social policy, a strong interest in psychosocial well being in the workplace, and a passion for normalizing mental health related conversations in every aspect of our lives. Her mission is to help academics and everyone else to prioritize self care, work life balance, and mental as well as physical health. Welcome to Papa PhD, Özgun. Super
Thank you.
happy to have you here.
I'm also very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
So, Özgun, my first question to you is how prevalent, in your experience, is burnout in academia, in academics?
Oof, very, very prevalent. Well, the thing with the burnout is it is a syndrome, it's an occupational burnout syndrome, is recognized by the World Health Organization,
Hmm.
and they have a certain definition of it. But then when you go into like studies, different studies, and the way the term burnout is being used, yeah, you see all kinds of things. There is no standardized definition. There are no standardized like symptoms of it where you can like easily diagnose someone with yes, burnout, no, not
Mm.
burnout. So that is difficult statistic to give, and we don't have that.
Of course. Mm.
But from what I learned from my official certification program that I went through to become a burnout coach, let's say at least 10% of the population is in danger of burnout, like this officially diagnosable
Mhm.
occupational burnout syndrome. And of course, that's the number that we had before the COVID time.
Oh my
And
gosh. Right.
now,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
all of these new things happening, it is increasing. But indeed, it's a very good question that I would love to know the answer of. Maybe I can
Mhm.
go to academia to research that one day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, but if you say that the definition is fuzzy, it's hard. But asking it in another way, you work with academics in different aspects.
Yeah.
How often do people come to you with burnout or pre-burnout situations?
Normally, everyone who ends up with me, who comes to me,
Hmm.
have an issue there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes they think they're in the pre-burnout stage. Then we find out that they are really very close.
Hmm.
Um, and let's also say that burnout is on a spectrum. So it is not like an on or off thing. It
Hmm.
is basically starts with stress, those everyday stresses becoming unmanageable over time. And then stress becomes chronic stress. And then the chronic stress becomes overexertion, let's call it that way.
Hmm.
And that then leads to burnout. So technically, to call someone, to label someone with the term burnout, they should be having the burnout symptoms for at least 6 months
Okay.
beforehand. So you don't end up in a burnout from 1 week to the next. It is a slow process to get there. And of course, once you get there, it is also quite slow to recover from there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was going to mention, is that once you really past that frontier, from what I've seen and heard, it takes a long time to recover.
Yeah,
But
indeed.
the silver lining in what you're saying, and actually the subject today is how to stop burnout in its tracks, is that because it's a process, and tell me if I'm interpreting this right, if we catch it early on enough, there's ways to reverse the process. Is that, or to
Yes.
stop it at least, and reassess and put something in place to not go there?
Yes, of course. At, still, you come to a certain stage that you've never been before, that shocks you and surprises you, and you go like, okay, how did I come here? But you can catch it here, here, or here. Like, you don't see my
Hmm.
hand on the camera anymore, it's gone. So indeed, from wherever you are, you can start working backwards and rebuilding that resilience. And we didn't make the link explicitly, but the how we started the conversation and how I called like the collective trauma.
Hmm.
Burnout is also a trauma in and of itself.
Hmm.
So there's a nervous system aspect of it. It is your survival mechanism getting out of whack, basically. You
Hmm.
are like too long on fight and flight. Know that stress and sympathetic nervous system activation. You start freezing at some point. That's the stage where you basically prepare to die, and that intersection is
Hmm.
also what's called burnout. So both this drive and like keeping on going, and also the body saying no, I can't.
It's over. Yeah.
So your head does something else, your body does something else. And for a lot of people who have been in burnout, there's this memorable moment where they say, okay, I can't like recognize myself anymore, and I can't control my body, my mind, and my life
Mhm.
anymore. Like everything is slipping away.
Mm, interesting. And now, my follow-up question to that is there a profile? Like, is there, I mean, is it more, in your experience, prevalent in people at a certain stage of their academic career, or is
Mhm.
it throughout? I'm trying to get a picture of, who is dealing with this in your
Yeah,
experience
it
more.
is. It is throughout. It is throughout. But of course, the earlier career academics, sometimes the higher the chance, because statistically speaking, also younger people have a higher chance of getting burnout.
Hmm.
That's that was something interesting for me. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, people under 30, for instance, it's especially like a vulnerable group, that that is also the case for academics. So most people who come to me, they're like PhD students, postdocs,
Okay.
where they have less control over their work life, let's say.
Mm.
But this doesn't mean that you won't have a burnout later on in life. Really, it can happen to anyone at any stage of life, at any seniority level.
Mhm.
And it is not 100% about work. I mean, it is occupational burnout syndrome. Work is a big aspect of it, but it usually uh, burnout usually happens at the intersection of your work circumstances, your life circumstances, and your personality traits.
Mhm. Mhm.
So coming back to your question, is there a profile?
Yeah, tell
I
us the story. Tell us kind of a generic story of a story of getting into burnout in this population.
Yeah, it's very easy. We academics are very ambitious people usually. If anyone chooses to pursue a PhD and pursue an academic career afterwards, okay, you already have that high achieving side there.
Yeah, that drive.
Many
Yeah.
of us are very perfectionist because we
Mhm.
have to. You can't you can't make an experiment in a lab. Okay, I'm not a chemist, but I'm giving an example from chemistry. You can't just put things together haphazardly. You have to be very detail
Meticulous.
oriented,
Mhm. Yeah.
very meticulous. We are very hard on ourselves in terms of self judgment that I see in myself and in all of my clients and in the academic community in general. And my personal hypothesis around it is that the criticism, the critical mind that we have as academics, as scientists, like going a bit too far to the
Mhm.
personal area. Science always goes forward with critique, right? You see somebody's work, you give a critic so that that person can improve the work. But over time, this has unfortunately evolved into like this criticism going to someone's personality, or the person can take it this way. My work is not good enough, so I am not good
Not good
enough.
enough. Okay.
So that imposter phenomenon is there
Mhm.
too for many of us. Yeah, they accepted me as a postdoc for this project. They did something wrong because I'm not good enough. Like I will be found out tomorrow how bad I am, and
Mhm.
I will be out of a job. I will lose all my reputation. I will end up homeless on streets. Like
The
that's
the classic
how
imposter phenomenon. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it keeps going on and on. So those are the like main themes, let's say, I see.
Mhm.
um I get more clients who are women. Maybe that's because I'm a woman too. So I can't really say that men have less burnout, but maybe they take more time to reach out to someone
Mhm. Mhm.
when that happens.
Yeah.
So
I can see how women having to juggle more in life than just their work life. And of course I'm generalizing, but I can see how it could be more prevalent in women for that reason, because there's more. There's, family, there's eventually there's kids, and there's so many things that pile up, and that you could, if you are in that mindset of I'm failing at this and I'm failing at life and I'm just a failure, I can see how that could happen. But I can also see your point of men are more reserved or less prone to share and
yeah,
to be vulnerable
yeah,
in that way. So yeah, yeah, we can't really say, at least from here and with with our knowledge.
yeah, yeah.
Now, um my question to you is what was, and tell me if I misread, but you go through an experience of burnout yourself, And
Yes.
if so, how was it for you? What were the reasons? What did you learn out of it, apart
Whew.
from deciding to start helping people with it?
Yeah.
But you came out of it. Now you're in another chapter, and that's you're leaving proof that
Hmm.
it's not a it's not something that destroys you.
Yeah.
But it can feel like that when you're inside it, right?
Oh, certainly, certainly. Um, by the way, to just tell the truth, I still consider myself as recovering, in
Hmm.
the process of recovery still after
Hmm.
4 years or something. And I think I will be in the recovery stage quite a long time, because what you go through is not something that can be reversed in a
Hmm.
second, or in several months. So I try not to give people this idea of, yeah, just come to me and I will fix you in a few weeks and you're good to go and you're good as new. That's
Hmm. Yeah,
not the case.
that's important to say. Yeah.
In my experience, what happened? So as I said, there is work circumstances, there are life circumstances, and there are personality traits. For me, work circumstances were not so heavy, they weren't so bad. I had a great supervisor. By the way, I went through my PhD, sorry, my burnout towards the end of my PhD. That was the peak point of it. And then I
Mhm.
continued as postdoc as well, but after a while I said, okay, I can't do this anymore, and left my academic career, because also burnout showed me that I wasn't in the best career for
For you.
myself.
Mhm.
I was feeling very lonely in the job. As I said, I'm from Turkey. My parents, all of my family, they're back in Istanbul, and I alone migrated to Belgium and was working here, living here, and all of that. So that isolation, that loneliness, put a lot of stress there. Um, there were other stressful things in my private life. And on top of that, I was very hard on myself, extremely hard on myself. Like, nothing I did was good enough for me. Even if somebody would say, "Oh yeah, yeah, congratulations, you got this published," I'm like, "Yeah, but do you know it's actually not as good as it's supposed to be? But they still published it. But
Mhm.
so at some point, I was working till 2 o'clock in the morning, sleeping till noon, and then doing that, like isolating myself more and more and more to finish more and more. I had this genius, quote unquote, genius idea of, if I like isolate myself as much as possible and do only work, I can finish it like quickly and then just move on.
Yeah.
Of course, you laugh now. It's stupid.
No,
It's
but
the most stupid thing ever.
I think you're not alone thinking like that, and it's I think it's natural, and I think a lot of people go through that, especially in that context of the PhD and of finishing your PhD. So okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna clench my teeth and forget about social life and whatever, and just do this, and
exactly.
you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Exactly. And let me also say this: burnout is not a mood disorder, it's not a mental health issue, in fact. For example, clinical depression, that is a mood disorder.
Hmm.
Burnout is an energy disorder. So we talk about like energy management. I know that you talk about this in other podcast episodes, like energy management versus time management. Okay, both are important, but really that energy thing, like, how much do I have? How much can I spend? Like that was something I wasn't aware of.
Hmm.
So I just kept pushing and pushing, pushing, pushing. And at some point, I had yeah, what I could call today a nervous breakdown.
Hmm.
That was a very scary experience. I had to go to the like emergency doctor and like get some tranquilizers and everything. So that was kind of the flipping point for me. And even
Mhm.
after that, I went back to work and I said, yeah, okay, I will like low key, I will continue because I can't stop. Like stopping is not an option
It's not an
ever.
option, yeah.
So until I had to, until I wasn't able to get out of bed, until I wasn't able to look another person in the eye without crying, like breaking really
Breaking down
apart.
and crying, breaking apart,
I
yeah.
was breaking down, like in the post office, in the doctor's room, um, when I was speaking with my supervisor, with my
Mhm.
friends, like.
Ay, ay, ay.
So that's not okay, right? That
Of
is
course.
called, by the way, like technically, that's called emotional impairment. Like
Hmm.
you're basically impaired at emotional level, at the cognitive level. You're exhausted to beyond what you can describe. It's not like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't get up. It is like really exhaustion to the point where like you cannot command your body anymore,
Mhm, mhm.
which is a very scary place to be for many of us who
Of course.
haven't gone through something like that. Like you go, okay, am I losing it? Like what is going on here?
Yeah, and for a
So
lot of us who are
that was,
very very based on rationality and control, and it must be really, really scary. Yes,
yeah,
I can only imagine. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's how it got to that place for me. And then what I did was like many other people do. I took 2 months off.
Hmm, hmm.
I took 2 months off, but how? I went home to my parents' place and I took my PhD thesis with me. I said, I'm gonna finish this because
Ay, ay,
I'm
ay.
gonna finish this. But at least I didn't have to like continue working and doing the other tasks I was being paid for
Mhm,
at the research institute I was working. Um, and that was another decision to make, right? Because at that point I was like, okay, either I'm gonna rest a bit by leaving the PhD to the side, or I'm gonna like try to finish this as much as possible. I chose the second one because I knew that I would probably not be able to go back if I stopped.
yeah,
But I
and
took some help in the meantime. I was already getting some help, a lot of support from everyone I knew, including my supervisor, my co-supervisor, and,
mhm.
the jury, the examination jury, everyone. So like it was a collective effort for me to finish. Then after 2 months, I came back. I defended my PhD. Everything finished, and I said, "Okay, now the stress is over. It's gone. So I can go back to my life."
I did the thing, it's good,
Yeah,
but I feel there's a
but
but coming up.
there is a but. 2 months later, boom, another crash.
Mm,
I have to go present in a European Commission meeting somewhere,
mhm,
and the stress is building up, the anxiety is building up, the anxiety attacks coming back.
mm.
Okay, I contact again a psychiatrist and all that. Like, what's going on with me? Do I have this disorder or that mental health illness? Like, what is going on? But it was basically just burnout coming back. And then I took, what did I do? 2 weeks off just to relax a bit, to rest, and like at home, and then went back to work. 3 months later, same story.
Mhm.
Same story being repeated 4 times. I said, okay, like
My
there's
body is
more to
telling me
this.
something, like
Yes, there's more to recovering from burnout than just to
than
take
resting.
time off
Mm,
of work and stay at home and like chill. That's not recovery. That is something that you need, that rest to calm your body down a bit, like to get that energy a bit back, but you have to put that energy into things that will really bring recovery. So rest is, yes, necessary, but not the solution. Unfortunately, many
Hmm.
people think that like taking some time off at home, or a vacation, or a hobby will help them like recover, but that's not how it works.
Mm. So, Özgün, so what is the path to recovery? Because that's the one that instinctively say, okay, I'm tired, my mind is tired, my body's tired, I'll take some rest and then come back. But no, there's something that stays there. What's the path then to
Yeah.
recovery?
Yeah, very good question. I'll get to that. But I realize that until now we didn't really define burnout
It's
syndrome.
true. It's
So
true.
I want to give that definition first,
Yes.
and then answer your question. So I will look at my screen here and read, because I copied and pasted
Yeah.
the definition. So as I said, the WHO, World Health Organization, officially recognizes burnout as the concept. It's not a disease. It is not a condition. Yeah, but it's just like a syndrome slash phenomenon.
Hmm.
So they say that burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by three dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and third, reduced professional efficacy. Now, this definition comes from the research that was done more than 50 years ago. A great start, but it is now a bit outdated, a bit old-fashioned definition. So I also want to put in quickly the definition I use,
Hmm.
and the definition where most of us, like burnout coaches in Belgium and the Netherlands, use,
Okay.
based on more recent research that's being done in these countries. And according to this definition, there are four categories of burnout, which I already actually said before. One
Mm.
is exhaustion, like beyond what you can explain. Second one is mental distance. This sometimes is called cynicism, but cynicism can be a part of it. The idea is that you get more and more isolated from your work, and you lose the purpose of your work. Like what you do day in and out doesn't mean anything to you anymore.
Mhm.
And then you have the cognitive impairment, which means concentration loss to great extent. Like you can't, let alone reading a scientific article, reading instructions to plug something to something else, even that becomes beyond your capacity.
Mhm.
Memory problems
Okay.
also arise for some people. And then you have the fourth, emotional impairment, which is like the loss of control of emotions, everything becoming very intense, and you being in this like survival state. I will, the smallest criticism becoming, oh my God, they're gonna fire me and I will lose everything.
Mhm.
So, to in my experience, and in my educated opinion as well
Mhm.
around burnout, as I said, it's not something that you can recover from by resting, going on holiday, changing your job, getting a hobby, whatever. Those are like good things. Yes, you should have them. Great. But if you're already there, that's not enough. You have to address the root cause of burnout. And that's the intersection of your personality traits, your work circumstances, and your life circumstances come
Mm.
together. And this is unique for every individual. That's
Okay.
why we have like a certain pathway, a guide, like a guide for the majority of people. but I can't tell you, you should do this and this and this, and then you will be done. There's no such thing, because your needs and your situation is different from the
Mhm.
other person. So that's what makes burnout recovery very tricky. Another thing, this also is a very how do you say it? Uh, conflicting thing, not
Fleeting.
confrontational, not conflictional, whatever. There is a lot of also criticism and discussion around this issue too.
Oh, I
I
see.
would call it self-care,
Mm-hmm.
key for like both recovering from burnout and preventing burnout.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends on how you define
Self-care.
self-care.
Yes.
But now I want to take a break and ask you, David.
Yes.
Tell me, what is self-care? What is self-care according to you?
I was just gonna say that it's an overused term.
Yeah?
It's an overused term, but based on what I'm hearing from you, I would say self care has some aspect of self compassion. I would say there is some aspect of um, uh, never letting work eat your me time too much. Of course, to a certain extent, sometimes yes, there's a weekend where you need to do more, but there needs to be some bubble, some untouchable bubble of things you do for you, be it yoga, knitting, singing in a choir. I don't know. um and I would say community, be having a sort of safety net, not leaving yourself be alone. I don't know, do these three fit? This
Definitely. Definitely. Very good. Actually, I was
I passed, did
expecting
I
more
pass?
like, yeah, you get 10 points out of 10. I was more expecting, oh yeah, take bubble baths and this and that. But yeah, definitely. It is very relevant what you said, especially the community aspect. Many academics are very lonely and isolated. Unfortunately, that's a huge stressor in someone's life, and that was a big stressor for me.
Mhm,
But for example, this bubble around work thing, when you tell a PhD student who has, like, a PhD researcher who left his or her country, all of their friends, like family behind, to do like scientific research in another country, like starting from scratch, yeah, put a like a bubble around your work. My question at that time for the people who told me this, yeah, but you should put like boundaries between work and life. I'm like, but what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't have anything to do than work.
mhm. Yeah,
But of
I've been
course,
there.
like, self-care wasn't my forte at the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, coming back to self-care, like you said, exercise, it's yoga things, singing in the choir, those are amazing things. By the way, singing in the choir is shown, like, scientifically to be um, more um, creating more community feeling than even playing team sports, like
That's amazing.
even being in like a football team or something. So
That's so funny. I just said it. I was in choirs when I was in university, and
voila,
I
you
just
know
it
it.
just came out. I didn't know that
Yeah.
there was a relation to
Yeah,
music
yeah,
and
there
to
is.
self care and to community.
So exercise is important, of course. Sleep is very important. Fun, hobbies, your diet, drinking enough water. Though everybody knows these things.
Hmm.
And then you have this balance, this famous work-life balance that people talk
Hmm.
about, which
Hmm.
is not only between work and life, but between like so many other aspects of our lives that we think in the West a bit more categorically, like, there's work, there's life, there's parenting, this, that.
Hmm.
But it is basically the harmony of these. And like, unlike many people who think of balance as a noun, like a static thing where you like achieve, yeah, okay, I achieved my balance and it is there now. Doesn't work that way. It is a constant balancing. So it is a verb, the
Hmm.
balance. Of course, some weeks you will have to do more of something and then another week something else, but that act of constantly keeping in mind, okay, like how much do I have to give? Because
Hmm.
I can't pour from an empty cup. Like many parents, for example, my clients, if they are parents, they say, oh yeah, but I can't like stop doing this for my child and that for my child. And I'm like, but your child needs you to be healthy first
Hmm.
before
Yeah.
everything else that
Yeah.
you just put in your schedule. Because if you are completely uh done, like
Hmm.
exhausted, would your child appreciate you being like a healthy, happy parent, or like
It's not
getting
gonna work.
everything but not to have the parent?
Actually, I have a question
Yeah.
for you, Özgun, and it has to do with experience that I went through my PhD. But you've mentioned this question of people. You come from abroad, you've left your friends and family, so you there's many things that can happen in when you're getting used to a new culture. Maybe you come from somewhere where putting yourself forward is not seen in a good eye. You can come from somewhere where subservience to higher grade people, persons in your life, is something very important, and you have a difficulty of approaching or asking things of someone superior, and you might also feel in debt to the people. Oh, they accepted me, they brought me here, or I have this opportunity of coming to this country, to do this research and to this institute. I should It's easy to fall into this trap of I should give my everything. And then, and this is part one, and you kind of mentioned it before. Part two is, often during the PhD, things go wrong. Things don't work for months, for weeks.
They have to. That's PhD. That's what happens in PhD.
And if you are extracted from your milieu, from your family, from your friends, you might you have only yourself to talk to. You have only your negative self-talk to hear, and you can fall into shame. You can fall into yeah, shame is I think maybe a big one. But then you fall into this trap of a kind of fight or flight, or fight, flight or freeze that you were mentioning of, okay, this is not going well, it's on me, and the imposter phenomenon. um and I wonder whether, in your experience, or there is a way to avoid that, because I think it's very easy to, especially if you're coming from abroad, to fall into this. I wonder whether there's advice to people who are expatriates, and to make their self-care more a priority, and if you have like some tips or tricks on how to keep that safety network
Mm.
alive, even if you're 3,000 miles away from
Yeah.
family and friends.
The only thing I can say from personal experience too, that for some people this is a very difficult experience. Not for everyone, no? But I was one of those people like who experienced this very hard. That loneliness, that isolation,
Mhm.
that I couldn't get out of. This did not mean that I didn't have any friends. I did, but it was different. It wasn't
Mhm.
my like core support network. So the only thing I can say is like prioritize community aspect. Like really, there's absolutely nothing that can replace human connection. You can be the most successful in your job. You can earn I don't know how much money, but at the end of the day, as a human being, you need other people to survive. Even if you can take care of everything, your mental health will deteriorate. So many of us, unfortunately, I believe, make the mistake there. We underestimate how hard it will be to get out of our comfort zone, and we go like many of us, yeah, but comfort zone is for getting out of, and I will like break everything I know and I will start over. Well, as a person who started over several times in my life, now I can say like I don't want to do that anymore, because it breaks certain things. So there's actually another discussion that comes out of this. That's not the subject for this episode, but maybe another time. This overemphasis in academia that you have to move around, like that you can't have roots anywhere. You go where
Yeah.
the job is.
Yeah.
And that is becoming like, you have to do that if you want to be an academic. Do you really? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
so there's a lot to think about that. And what you say is very, very important. Support is very important. Reaching out to people is very important. And really making it a priority that you have people around you.
Hmm.
Because when worst comes to worst, those people will pick you up if
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
you're in that kind of stage,
Yeah.
which
Around you
happens
and
for
close.
me
Yeah.
too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now you were mentioning this thing about the balance not being
Balance. Yeah.
not being a noun but being a verb,
Yeah.
and I I have another question for you, which kind of follows up from what I introduced just before. So imagine the situation of something is going wrong. I'm a young researcher away from my country, maybe like an ocean apart. And then I decide, okay, things are going wrong. I'm going to push the balance this way to work more and solve this issue.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to drop some things off. This week I'm going to not do some of the things that are part of my self care. And then the problem doesn't go away. Next week, you say, well, I was able to do it 60 hours last week. Let's do it again. And then you know where this is going. It's kind of a snowball effect. There's a point, that tipping point where you can't go back and you've spent all your energies.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you I really want to help people allow themselves to take time for themselves when things are going wrong at the lab or in your research, but I don't know what message to what words to use to tell them you've
Mm-hmm.
worked 60 last week or 80 this week, even if you didn't resolve the issue that you were trying this week, you need to do 30 or 40. You need to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's
Yeah.
what's a message you can share around that? And we're getting to the end. It's super interesting what you're sharing. We're getting to the end of the interview, but I know you can't give like advice of this way you avoid it completely, this way you you get past your experience uh,
Exactly.
of burnout. But what can you say, at least in those situations, which I know are very common in a PhD?
Yeah. David, what would you say to that person?
Well, I would say the thing is, I know what I'm going to say it soon, and I kind of said it before in other words, but what I feel is sometimes in certain conversations, there's words that people don't hear, that you tell
Exactly.
them, and they're not ready to hear, and they're like, yeah, you don't understand. But I
Exactly.
I would say never do a stretch of a week or 2 weeks of 200% work without programming a stretch of taking the foot off the pedal for a week in
Exactly.
between them.
Exactly.
And this is a general thing. Then taking the foot off the pedal can mean many things for you, but yeah, that would be my
Exactly. So you have the answer. Everybody has this answer. Believe me, everybody knows this, because we are like bombarded also with these kind of messages. Yeah, how do you prevent burnout? Like this, like that, da 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 da. The question for me is, like you said, some messages don't get through. Why don't they get through?
Mm.
And that, like, I wasn't able to like finish the self-care thing. Actually, it's the, the overall thing, the energy
Go ahead.
givers,
Take your
things
time.
that give you energy. And now you have this balancing thing. And then at the core of self-care, but you also mentioned this self-compassion,
Hmm.
self-acceptance, and self-advocacy. You won't
Oh yeah.
advocate for your health, for your well-being, if you don't think that you are a valuable being who deserves to be healthy.
Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
think that work is always more important than your survival, your health, your well-being, those kind of messages will never get through. And once people get that self-compassion, self-acceptance, this valuing oneself,
Hmm.
automatically they advocate for themselves. Like, why not? And they
Hmm. Hmm.
automatically take those steps. Like, you don't have to tell them, like, give them a prescription of, oh yeah, how many times did you say no today? It's not about how many times you say no. It's not about like learning scripts to put boundaries in
Hmm.
place. It is about coming to a state of mind where those boundaries automatically appear because of self preservation,
Hmm. Hmm.
because you believe that you are something, someone worth preserving.
I love it. I love it, but and it brings me back to something I just said before, and and I'm just gonna test you a little bit more on this because I think it's important.
Go ahead.
You're just telling me that people you need to be able to bring people to put themselves first, and I agree with you. This PhD is part of your life. It's something you're doing for that's going to be part of your life, and that in 10 years it's going to be part of the past in your life. And what happens, or how do you deal when you want to to ensure your self-care, but then superiors shame you on it? Because this is, I'm sure, the issue for a lot of people. Even it can be as something that self-inflicted. Oh, because they have this relationship to hierarchy because of their culture or their personality. But even if they don't, even if they, I'm thinking here, I'm in Canada. If they're even if they're from North America, they've grown in this culture and they're super able to advocate for themselves, there's still a hierarchy. And it can be difficult to say, well, my PI is actually told me that they don't agree that I take this time off, but I
Yeah.
will anyway. How do you solve this question and this difficult conversation?
Unfortunately, it is a very difficult situation for everyone who's there, and it happens so often that I don't really understand how those PIs can be so lacking of empathy and understanding of
Mm.
human condition. I know people whose supervisor said, we are academics, we are researchers, we don't take holidays.
Oh wow.
Or writing emails like, ah, yeah, guys, like my team, I am on holiday, so I will only work 6 hours in the coming 2 weeks because I'm on holiday. It's like
Wow.
that is also imposing in another way, right? You
Of
should
course.
take me as an example, and I'm this. And then there are people, like you said, who said, like, no, you can't take the time off. It's a very difficult dilemma. And at the end of the day, look, once you find a person, if you need this kind of help, to sit together and to discuss these things, different kind of solutions based on your own situation will arise. This could be talking to the ombudsperson in your university. This could be going to um, your labor union and reporting the situation and like trying to protect your rights. This could be quitting if
Hmm.
there's nothing else.
Hmm.
The thing is, pushing yourself to burnout And then finishing your PhD doesn't mean that you're off the hook. That comes back to you after a few years. I've seen this
Hmm.
so many times, and I've begged people in the past, look, like this is not going well. You should really tone it down. You should
Reassess and
reassess the situation, take it slow, or like consider this and that and that. And they said, no, I will just push through, do it. And they did finish the PhD. They did go through the postdoc or whatever. But at some point they broke down, because that's you can't run away from your physiology and
Mhm.
psychology being under so much stress.
Of
I am
course.
not saying that once you like come across such a person, quit. No, but there's no one size fits all thing here, and
Mhm.
there are always different routes that you can take. There's like always different things that you can do. You can rebel and still do your thing and
Mhm.
get away with it. You have to try, of course, but if worse comes to worse and there's no way out, absolutely,
Mhm.
maybe start over in another
Of course.
place.
Of course. Some people also have mentioned finding a mentor or a champion that kind of balanced things out in a way.
Yes,
But it's I feel that
exactly.
there's a lot of luck in that. It's not something you can
Exactly.
prescribe.
Exactly. A lot of different things happen. Like that's my personal story too. I had a great relationship with my supervisor. Awesome. I love him so much. I even invited him to my like wedding and everything. Like we see each other, but I wasn't getting enough like feedback from him to advance my research. I was stuck all the
Mhm.
time, and that was
Mhm.
always having a terrible effect on me. And finding my supervisor at the time was the thing that saved me.
Mhm.
So the important thing is to like really find the problem, to assess, and then look into different ways. And in different countries, you have different solutions available to you. In different
Of
universities, you
course.
have different solutions. I can't tell a person, ah, yeah, go to the, um, I don't know, labor union and like discuss this to someone in Turkey, for example. Like that's not
Mhm.
gonna
Mhm.
work. But in Belgium, it might.
Mhm. Mhm.
See, every country has a culturally different resources for such people,
Of
and
course.
that's why it's important to find help, because this is a very big thing to tackle on your own.
Mhm.
You will
Mhm.
need the help of more than one person.
Mhm.
Your healthcare providers being one of them, you will need
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
from multiple people. Yeah,
Özgün, this has been wonderful, and you've shared your personal story,
yeah,
but I think we did end up touching on many things that are real for a lot of people, that are difficult for a lot of people,
yeah,
and I really appreciate that we had the opportunity to talk, and the message, the kind of the take home message that I'm kind of gonna go the other way that you went, but the take home message is put yourself first. If you're moving to another country, make sure you beforehand you try to already have a community there waiting for you. Maybe just a community of expats. There's always things like that. Maybe if we're talking about singing in a choir, fix that in advance to be part of the choir when you get there,
yeah,
or whichever. Some people from your community that are there, try to do that in advance. Don't, because once you hit the ground, you get there, and if you hit the ground running and start work, then it can get very difficult to say, hey, by the way, I'm taking time off to do something that this first 3 months that I came into your lab I wasn't doing, and I was just in the lab.
yeah. That
So
too, very important.
I start with put yourself first in your reflection. This is a process for you. You decided to go, to go do this thing that is the PhD. Yes, the person is taking you into their lab, but it's your life and it's your health.
Yeah,
Put yourself forward. Community, so that the second bubble is community, and then your interests that you've had from before, the things that re-energize you, because we all have different ones, and the things that you're passionate about, be sure to at least bring a handful of them, or make sure that a handful of them you can do there when you go there, and
exactly.
um and then um I feel that a last one is, and it can be difficult, but is listen to your body, listen to
Yes.
what your
Yes.
physiology, what your nervous system is telling you.
Yes.
If it's telling you, look, there's a bear around the corner, you need to either freeze or fight or flight. There's something wrong. You shouldn't be going through a,
Exactly.
this research experience afraid for your life, even though it's not
Exactly.
consciously and really afraid for your life. That's how your nervous and your physiology is going through it.
Exactly.
So get
That,
help right away.
yeah, and the last thing you said is very important because that's also my observation that many academics, many researchers with the, you know, like with the scientific mind, we are like this brain.
It's all in here, yeah.
We think, we don't feel. We don't
Hmm.
feel, we don't pick up signals from our body. And then once we get like flattened on the bed, we go like, oh, how did I get here? Well, you didn't get there overnight. Duh. It's like,
You've been working at this for a little while.
exactly,
Ay, ay,
exactly. So that's a very important message. I want to re-emphasize that. Yeah.
excellent. Özgun, before we end, I want people to know if they want to reach out to you, if they want to ask you questions, if they want just to say thank you for this conversation. What's the best way to reach out to you? Where are you online?
Yeah. So my coaching practice is called Mind Your Own Revisions. I also have a podcast myself, which is a rather dormant one. It comes alive sometimes, but
Okay.
it's like a low key one, not like yours or every week. But so if you go to www.mindyourownrevisions.com, you will find all the links to everything I do, like my YouTube channel, the podcast, the ways to work with me, my online courses, like my email address, everything is there. And yeah, it's a maybe a good point to add too, circling back to the message in the beginning of the disaster and
Yes.
contributing to disaster relief. I am running a 4 week program called Bounce Back from Burnout. It
Okay.
is specifically designed for academics, and we go through the basics. And we assess the risk, and we go through the basics of what is going on, why are you here, how can you like take things into your control, and all of that. And the next cohort will start on the 5th of March, and
Mhm.
all of the profits from this cohort will go to disaster relief organizations trying to help the victims of the earthquake in Turkey and Syria.
That's
So
wonderful.
if any of the listeners are interested in that, feel free to reach out to me, email me, contact me
Mhm.
on the website contact form. I will certainly get back to you.
And to anyone watching and to anyone listening, Özgün is going to send me the details for this, and I will put them in the show notes of the episode, and you'll find the links there too if you want. But also feel free to reach out to her and on her platform. So again, it's
Yeah.
mindyourownrevisions.com.
Yeah.
All right. Özgün, this has been really, really wonderful. This is not an
Thank you
easy
so much.
subject.
No.
I was happy that I passed the test in the middle of the interview when you asked me what self care meant for me.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important question because you were mentioning, oh, you thought I might say, a bubble bath and I don't know, going to a spa, and I think for a lot of people that's what they might think about. But in this context, it needs to go deeper than
Yeah.
just than just skin deep. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on Papa PhD.
You're
And
very, very welcome. And it was my pleasure. It was a really deep conversation where we could really talk about important things. So thank you for your really good questions
Mhm.
and for inviting me to be on this platform. So I'm hoping that this conversation that we had helps some people like shed light on their lives and assess
Mhm.
a bit what's going on here. If we can achieve a very small like part in
Yeah, a handful
that's
of people,
that's
that'd be great. Even
that's great.
what I say usually is, if I can help one person, like my mission is
Exactly.
accomplished already. So,
Exactly.
Özgün, thank you so much, and actually, I'm grateful for having the chance of asking you those questions. Without you in front of me, I wouldn't have had the chance to explore them and to think of them even. So,
Yeah.
thank you. I usually tell people the usual things a creator says at the end of the episode, but today I'm going to say I go to ahbap.org if you want to donate, if you're able to donate
Yeah.
to something today, please go there. And if you are interested in the event, the promotion, or the campaign that Özgun is organizing around a burnout, do that. Help. Let's help Turkey. They need it a lot. Turkey and Syria. And so I will end the episode here today, thanking everyone who watched live and thanking everyone who watched later or is listening in their headphones. So again, Özgün, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.